Rockstar created the most anticipated game in history, and also the most ambitious. An immersive world, teeming with wildlife, saturated with civilians with their own routines, gigantic cities and hyper-realistic cars. The problem is that what they built is too big for any console that exists today. Not because they failed, but for exactly the opposite reason. Rockstar is not a normal studio, not in the sense that others are. There is something about the way they approach development that has always been different. They consistently release something ahead of its time, and that is well documented. In 2001, GTA 3 was released for the PS2, a console with 32 megabytes of RAM, which, just for reference, is less memory than an Instagram photo today. And on that hardware, Rockstar packed a functional open world with realistic traffic, with pedestrians who had routines, with real-time physics, with artificial intelligence that made decisions. The developers of the time analyzed it and found no clean answer. There was no satisfactory technical explanation for why it fit there. It simply fit. 3 years later, San Andreas arrived on the same console. Not a smaller game, not an update, but triple the map, triple the systems, flight mechanics, combat, customization, and territory. All of it coexisting on the very same hardware that had already delivered everything it technically should have been able to deliver. When GTA 4 was released in 2008, it made full-body physics a commonplace feature, at a time when such a thing was anything but commonplace for anyone else. Rockstar integrated a physics engine called Euphoria that allowed Nico Bellic to grab onto surfaces, stumble, and react to impacts in ways no character had ever done before, with his body responding to weight and movement realistically, not through pre-recorded animations, but via real-time simulation. The consoles of that era sounded like jet engines whenever the game was running. And before GTA 5 came Red Dead Redemption 1 in 2010. That was the first time Rockstar demonstrated that what they did not depend on an urban context. They took that same level of ambition and poured it into a massive western, with a world that felt alive in a way that no open-world game had ever achieved before outside of cities. It was another demonstration that the pattern was no coincidence. And then, in 2013, GTA 5 arrived on the PS3, a console that had been on the market for 7 years and technically had nothing left to give. A map 3 times larger than Red Dead Redemption. 3 protagonists with independent artificial intelligence that you could switch between in real time. A simulated ocean with dynamic waves. Wildlife with real-world ecosystem behaviors, and all that on a PS3. The engineers at Naughty Dog, along with those at Santa Monica, the most technically respected studios in the industry, opened up that game and publicly stated that they didn't understand what they were seeing. Rockstar didn't respond. It launched GTA Online and walked away. That is the pattern. It is not luck, it is not just budget. It is a way of working that starts from the opposite side to that of everyone else. Most studios look at the available hardware and build the most ambitious thing that fits within those limits. Rockstar first decides what it wants to build and then finds a way to make it fit. They don't adjust the vision to the hardware, they adjust the hardware to the vision. And what that means for the player is that with every generation, without exception, Rockstar delivered something that made everything else from that same era look different, neither better nor worse, from another era, as if they had skipped a step that the rest of the industry was still climbing. And the question that matters is not whether they will do it again. The question is how high the step goes this time. And GTA 6 is where that pattern goes further than ever. But to truly understand what lies ahead, you have to stop at Red Dead Redemption 2. Because Red Dead wasn't just a great game. It was the clearest warning Rockstar has ever given of just how far they will go when no one holds them back. When it came out in 2018 for PS4, what they did there still seems difficult for me to process when I think about it in detail. The snow in Red Dead wasn't a texture, it was a realistic simulation of accumulation. Arthur's clothes gathered snow depending on the angle of the wind and the time of exposure. The mud recorded the horse's hoofprints differently, depending on whether it had rained an hour ago or 3 days ago. The NPCs remembered what you had done the previous week and treated you differently.
You bastard! You killed my husband! You know that?
The animals hunted using real pack strategies, even if you weren't watching, because the system existed independently of the camera. These were not isolated details that someone threw in merely to impress during a demonstration. It was constant simulation each system talking to the others all the time, generating consequences that the player felt without being able to name them. That sensation that the world exists even when you aren't looking. The sense that things happen for their own reasons, and that you are merely someone who stepped in, is the hardest thing to build in a video game. Most don't even try. They build the stage and forget to build the life behind the stage. Rockstar built both things simultaneously on 2013 hardware. 8 years later, no one has surpassed him. And believe me, they've certainly tried. There have been games with teams of thousands and comparable budgets that promised living worlds, yet delivered nothing more than pretty maps with NPCs who repeat the same 3 lines. The difference is not one of resources, it is one of philosophy. Rockstar does not build a world for the player to traverse. It builds a world that would exist even if the player weren't there. And that shows. It always shows, even if the player cannot explain exactly why. That is what matters to understand before talking about Grand Theft Auto 6, because GTA 6 is that same obsession applied to a modern city with traffic, a tropical climate, an economy, and thousands of people making decisions simultaneously. And to run all of that, Rockstar built a new engine from scratch. The engine is called Rage 9, and that is where the real problem begins to take shape. Rockstar doesn't use Unreal. It doesn't buy technology from anyone. It has spent decades building its own, and each version arrives hungrier than the last, because every project teaches them something that they incorporate into the next. GTA 5 redefined how to load open worlds in real time. Red Dead took weather and environmental simulation to a level that left the industry without a technical response. Rage 9 arrives with physically simulated lighting, where every material possesses real optical properties, with simultaneous dual ray tracing. With volumetric clouds not mere textures in a skybox, but actual forming volumes that cast shadows over the city as they develop, altering the lighting of everything beneath them in real time. With physically simulated water, not just meshes that look convincing from a distance, but true fluid physics, frame by frame. What strikes me most about all of this isn't the graphics themselves, it's the simultaneity, because any single element on its own is manageable. Physically simulated lighting on its own is manageable. Volumetric clouds on their own are manageable. Physically simulated water on its own is manageable. All of that at the same time, with each system interacting with the others, in an open world of that scale, without loading screens. This is what causes the hardware to start running out of headroom, even if it looks powerful on paper. When clouds form over Vice City and their shadow changes the street lighting, that is not a visual effect. It is a real weather system, affecting a real lighting system in real time. And multiplying that by everything that is happening simultaneously is the problem facing the PS5. Not a game with good graphics. An engine that didn't ask any console for permission to be built this way. But here is what people aren't seeing, and it is what changes the entire conversation. Rockstar has been solving exactly this problem for 20 years. It is nothing new to them. It is their natural state of work, and they always resolve it in the same way. With predictive streaming that anticipates the player's movement before it happens, with a LOD system so sophisticated that the transition between high and reduced quality is invisible. With CPU cycle level optimization, the result of years of work by engineers whose sole job is to identify wasted resources and eliminate them. That is why his worlds seem impossible, because technically, on paper, they almost are. Of course it will run on PS5, but not entirely without compromise. There will be concessions negotiated internally by Rockstar to ensure that everything fits. Limits that the player will never be able to pinpoint, because Rockstar has spent 20 years making them invisible. And that, in itself, is an achievement that almost no one is properly appreciating. For making limits invisible is not the same thing as having no limits at all. It is engineering of a caliber with no equivalent in the industry. Engineering whose objective is not merely to make the game run, but to make it run without anyone ever noticing when it is being pushed to its absolute limit. And even so, it's going to be the most technically advanced game you've ever held in your hands. That strikes me as the most fascinating part of all this, that even the version with compromises will surpass what any other studio delivered without cutting a single thing. And here comes the twist that no one is watching. Perhaps the PS5 was never the destination. Perhaps it was always the starting point. GTA 5 was born on the PS3, and it was incredible. It grew on PS4 and became a different game. It came to life on PS5, with ray tracing and everything else Rockstar had held back for 2 generations, waiting for hardware that could display it. 3 versions of the same game because Rockstar always keeps layers. It always reserves whatever doesn't fit and brings it out when the hardware arrives that can handle it without having to make any compromises. The version of GTA 6 that Rockstar had in mind when development began 12 years ago will arrive whenever that hardware arrives, and the people who play it will then look back at the PS5 version exactly the way we look back at GTA 5 on PS3 now, with fondness, but knowing that there was something bigger waiting underneath all along. So, yes, GTA 6 is going to destroy the PS5, not because I can't run it, but because after playing it, everything else is going to feel small. Because that is what Rockstar does every time it releases something. Not only deliver a technically impressive game, but also shift the benchmark from which the rest of the industry operates for years to come. After GTA 3, everyone tried to create open worlds. After Red Dead, everyone tried to create worlds that breathe. None of them quite managed to pull it off completely, because Rockstar doesn't share the manual. They only show the result. GTA 6 is going to do the same thing, and your PS5 is going to handle it. Probably with some concessions that no one is going to tell you about. Probably showing only the first layer of what this engine can generate when it has no limits. But it will be enough to redefine what an open world means for years to come. Because Rockstar doesn't follow generations, it ends them. Do you believe that this time they'll manage to pull it off without the cuts they had to make being noticeable? Or do you think the leap is too big, even for them? Leave a comment, because when GTA 6 comes out, this conversation will finally have an answer.